The story begins in the year 1878, in a rough and lawless place known as the Montana Territory. In a small frontier town, the people are gathered for a public hanging. But this is not just any execution. The man responsible for maintaining order today is Colton Briggs, a legendary gunslinger whose aim is known across the entire region. People say his shots never miss, and throughout his life, he has delivered justice to countless criminals. Because of his reputation, the government now uses him to help keep dangerous situations under control. The man about to be executed is named Robert, and he belongs to a notorious gang of outlaws. This gang is infamous for its brutal crimes. They rob homes, loot valuables, assault women, and kill anyone who stands in their way before disappearing again. But Robert is not just another criminal. He is the brother of Walter, one of the most feared bandit leaders in the entire territory. Everyone in town believes Walter will come with his gang to rescue him. That's exactly why Colton has been placed here, to make sure nothing goes wrong. The town sheriff is also present, and everything seems prepared for the execution. But just before the hanging can take place, chaos erupts. Walter suddenly arrives with his entire gang. Gunfire explodes across the town square. Within seconds, Walter's men shoot down the sheriff, and panic spreads everywhere. Bullets are flying from every direction, but Colton Briggs is still standing. The moment he gets a clear shot, he begins firing. One by one, he takes down the gang members. For Colton, a single bullet is all it takes. His aim is flawless, and every shot finds its target. Within moments, most of Walter's men are already dead. Finally, Walter realizes that Colton has eliminated almost everyone in his gang. In desperation, he raises his gun and prepares to kill Colton. But Colton is faster. One last shot rings out, and Walter drops to the ground. The battle is over. But among the crowd stands a small boy. This boy has just watched his father die right in front of his eyes, and he has also seen the man responsible. The boy's name is James. As he stares at Colton, hatred burns in his eyes. Even though he is just a child, the desire for revenge is already growing inside him. Colton notices the boy looking at him, but says nothing. He simply turns and walks away. 20 years pass. The man we see now is very different from the deadly gunslinger of the past. Colton Briggs has completely changed his life. He no longer kills people, and he no longer works as a gunman. Instead, he has chosen a quiet and peaceful life. The reason for this change is a woman named Ruth. Ruth is his wife, and after marrying her, Colton left his violent past behind. Together, they live in a small home, far away from the chaos of his former life. They also have a daughter named Brooke. Now, Colton's entire world revolves around his family. He wants nothing more than to live peacefully and protect the people he loves. One morning, Colton takes Brooke to school. But when they arrive, they learn that the teacher is sick and classes have been canceled for the day. So Colton brings Brooke with him to his small shop in town. The shop is how he earns money now and supports his family. While Colton cleans the store, Brooke curiously looks around. At the same time, back at their home, Ruth steps outside to hang some clothes. That's when someone approaches her, a man named James. He is no longer the small boy from 20 years ago. James stands in front of Ruth and politely tells her that he and his friends are lost travelers who have been wandering for a long time. He asks if they could stay at her home for a while, but Ruth is a smart woman. The moment she sees them, she senses something is wrong. She tries to run, but James and his men chase her down. They catch her, drag her back inside the house, and throw her onto the floor. James then reveals who he really is. He tells Ruth his name and explains that her husband once killed his father right in front of him. He says Colton might have told her a different story about his past, but James knows the truth. According to him, Colton was a monster who killed more people than he could even count, and now he has come to take revenge. James tells her that Colton must pay for his sins, and so must she. Moments later, they kill Ruth. A short time later, Colton and Brooke return home, but even from a distance, Colton immediately senses something is wrong. As he gets closer, he sees Marshal Jarrett standing outside the house with several men. Jarrett slowly approaches him and asks a question. "Are you Colton Briggs?" Colton answers yes. Jarrett looks shocked. He says he never imagined that someone like Colton Briggs, a man whose name once terrified people across the land, would end up living a quiet life with a family. But Colton doesn't care about that. He asks only one thing: what happened here? Jarrett lowers his head and tells him the terrible news. They heard gunshots and rushed to the house. But when they arrived, Ruth was already dead. The words hit Colton like a hammer. In that moment, his entire world collapses. Jarrett tries to keep things calm, knowing how dangerous Colton used to be. Everyone stands quietly, unsure what to do. After a while, Colton says he will bury his wife himself. He begins digging a grave beside the house. While he works, Jarrett sits beside Brooke and tries to comfort her. He tells her that her mother must have been been an incredibly strong woman, because no one else in the world could have changed a man like Colton Briggs. But something strange catches Jarrett's attention. Brooke isn't crying, not even a little. For a child who has just lost her mother, she seems completely emotionless. Later, Colton asks Jarrett one question. "Tell me who killed my wife." Jarrett refuses. He tells Colton to stay calm and let the law handle it. He promises that the criminals will be found and punished. He reminds Colton that returning to his old violent life would only lead to more bloodshed. Eventually, Jarrett and his men leave. But the moment they are gone, Colton walks to an old chest hidden inside the house. Inside it are the weapons he buried 20 years ago, the weapons of the man he once was. He opens the box and takes them out. Colton has made his decision. No matter what it takes, he will kill the people who murdered his wife. He gathers his weapons, takes Brooke outside, and burns the house to the ground behind them. Then the two of them ride away. A new journey has begun, and this time, Colton Briggs is returning to the world he once left behind. The next morning, Brooke asks her father something simple. She tells him she wants to go back home, but Colton calmly explains that they no longer have a home anymore. The life they once had is gone. Now they are on a mission. The people who killed her mother must be found, and they must pay. Once that is done, Colton promises they will start a new life somewhere else and build another home. Hearing this, Brooke quietly accepts his words. Meanwhile, Marshal Jarrett has also begun tracking the criminals responsible for Ruth's murder. As he rides with his men, he keeps thinking about something strange: Brooke's reaction. He tells his men that something about the girl felt unusual. He sat with her for a long time, talking about her mother, yet she never cried. For a child who just lost her mother, that kind of emotional silence feels unnatural. But before Jarrett can think more about it, trouble arrives. James and his gang have been hiding nearby, watching the marshals' movements. The moment Jarrett's group enters their trap, the gang opens fire. Gunshots explode from every direction. Because James's men are positioned higher up, they have a clear advantage. One by one, Jarrett's men are shot down. Within minutes, most of them are dead. Believing the danger is over, James and his gang leave the area. At the same time, Colton and Brooke continue their journey. After several hours of traveling, they see a man approaching them in the distance. Colton immediately becomes cautious and pulls out his gun. What he doesn't realize is that the man is one of Jarrett's deputies, badly wounded after the attack from James's gang. The man explains that their group was ambushed. He then takes Colton to the remaining survivors. When Jarrett sees Colton again, he looks frightened. Colton quickly disarms them, ties their hands, and collects all their weapons. Then he begins sharpening his knife. He tells Jarrett that he knows Jarrett is hiding the truth about who killed his wife. Jarrett tries to calm him down. He reminds Colton how difficult it must have been for him to leave his violent past behind, and he begs him not to return to that life again. He insists that justice should be handled by the law. But Colton is beyond listening now. He walks toward one of the injured deputies and asks one last time who killed Ruth. Finally, Jarrett gives in. He reveals the name, James. James and his gang had previously been arrested by Jarrett, but they escaped from jail and immediately went after Colton's family. Jarrett also reveals that the gang is heading to Colorado. Before their arrest, they had committed a massive robbery and buried the stolen money somewhere there. Now they are going back to retrieve it. That information is all Colton needs. But instead of hurting the deputy, Colton does something unexpected. He removes the bullet from the man's arm and treats his wounds. After helping them, he leaves with Brooke and continues the hunt. Meanwhile, James and his gang arrive in another town. James immediately orders his men to keep watch. He warns them that Colton Briggs could come after them at any time, and they have no idea how dangerous that man truly is. Later that night, Colton and Brooke set up camp. As they sit beside the fire, Brooke asks her father about his past, the life that made people fear him. Colton begins telling her the truth. He says he was always different from other people. As a child, he never cried and never laughed. He felt nothing. When his mother died, everyone around him was grieving, but he felt absolutely nothing inside. Eventually, he started killing people, and even while taking lives, he still felt no emotion. But he could see the fear in people's eyes. That fear helped him understand what death and suffering meant. Then one day he met Ruth, and everything changed. For the first time, he was afraid that someone might take her away from him. He loved her so deeply that he left his violent life behind to build a peaceful family with her. But now, she is gone. Colton tells Brooke that half of his world has been destroyed, and the people responsible will pay with their lives. As he says this, tears begin to fall from his eyes. For the first time, we see the legendary gunslinger crying. Brooke quietly listens and then says something surprising. She tells him she is just like him. When her mother died, she also felt nothing. But seeing her father cry now, she finally feels something inside. The next day, Brooke asks Colton to teach her how to shoot a gun. He hesitates at first, but eventually begins training her. Soon, Colton realizes something shocking. Brooke's aim is incredibly precise, just like his. After continuing their journey, they finally reach the outskirts of Colorado town. Colton knows James and his gang must be inside, but walking straight in would be suicide because they are expecting him. So he plans to sneak into the town from the back. That's when Brooke suggests something bold. She says she should go inside instead. James's gang knows what Colton looks like, but no one knows who she is. She can gather information and find out exactly where they are hiding. Colton agrees, but the moment Brooke enters the town, James's men immediately recognize her. They had been watching Colton's family for a long time before attacking Ruth. They saw both Colton and Brooke earlier, so they know exactly who she is. The gang captures Brooke and takes her to James. James looks at her and calmly explains that he plans to kill her father, but he offers her a choice. If she helps lure Colton into a trap, she can join his gang and live. Brooke responds without hesitation. If someone is going to die today, it will be you. Meanwhile, Colton realizes too much time has passed without Brooke returning. He sneaks into town himself. Silently, he begins killing James's men one by one, using his knife so that no gunshots alert the others. But eventually, a gunfight breaks out. Bullets fly everywhere as Colton takes down nearly the entire gang. During the chaos, one surviving bandit runs to James and warns him. Colton has arrived, and almost everyone else is dead. James immediately drags Brooke outside and orders one of his men to hold a gun to her head. Then he calls out to Colton. Colton steps forward. James introduces himself as Robert's son, the boy who watched Colton kill his father 20 years ago. Now he finally has his revenge. But instead of simply shooting Colton, he proposes a cruel game. James points his gun at Colton, while his henchman keeps a gun aimed at Brooke's head. If Colton shoots James to save himself, Brooke dies. If Colton shoots the henchman to save Brooke, James will shoot him. The choice is Colton's. Colton doesn't hesitate for even a second. He fires at the man threatening Brooke. The man drops instantly. Brooke is safe. But in the same moment, James pulls the trigger. The bullet hits Colton in the chest. Colton collapses to the ground. Brooke rushes to him as he struggles to breathe. For the first time in her life, she begins crying uncontrollably. Meanwhile, James stands nearby, smiling, believing he has finally won. But he makes one fatal mistake. He forgets that Brooke can shoot too. Suddenly, Brooke grabs a gun and fires. The bullet goes straight through James's head. James dies instantly. Brooke returns to her father's side. With his final breaths, Colton hands her his watch. Inside, it is a photograph of her mother. Moments later, Colton Briggs takes his final breath. Brooke breaks down in tears beside him. Soon after, Marshal Jarrett arrives and sees what has happened. He says that Colton was a good man, even though he knew Colton would never stop until his wife's killers were dead. Jarrett also reveals that they found all the stolen money that James's gang had buried. Instead of giving it to the government, Jarrett gives it to Brooke. He tells her to return to her father's shop and rebuild her life. If she ever needs help, she can come to him. With that, they take Brooke back to town, and that is where the story finally comes to an end.